"I'm taking him to the concert instead of you. He deserves it more," she said about her male best friend. "I bought her those tickets for her birthday." I didn't say anything, just waited until she left for the concert, packed my things while she was gone, and moved out. She came home to an empty apartment and a note. "He can have the tickets. And you? He can have you too." I didn't mind supporting her. That's what you do when you love someone, right? You build a foundation so they can build their dreams. Or at least that's what I told myself every time I paid the rent, the utilities, the grocery bill, and her student loan minimums while she found her artistic voice. I'm 28. I work in logistics supply chain management for a mid-sized manufacturing firm. It's not sexy work. I spend my days staring at spreadsheets, tracking shipping containers, and putting out fires between warehouses in Ohio and distributors in Shenzhen. It's high stress, long hours, and it pays enough that I can afford a nice 2-bedroom apartment in the city and save a decent chunk every month. Elena, 26, worked 15 hours a week at a boutique coffee shop and spent the rest of her time painting. And look, I respected it. I genuinely did. I wanted her to succeed. I thought I was being the supportive partner, the rock she could lean on. But the problem wasn't the money. The problem was Julian. Julian was Elena's best friend from college. He was 27, described himself as a multidisciplinary creative, and as far as I could tell, his primary discipline was sleeping on my couch and eating the food I paid for. The dynamic was always the same. I'd come home around 7 p.m., exhausted, tie loosened, just wanting a quiet hour. And there would be Julian, barefoot, feet up on my coffee table, sketching in a notebook while Elena made dinner with ingredients I'd bought the day before. "Hey, corporate drone returns," Julian would say, grinning like he just told the funniest joke in the world. He had that specific kind of arrogance that only comes from never having had to pay a mortgage. "How was the rat race? Did you win?" "Hi, Julian," I'd say, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. I'd kiss Elena, who would usually offer a distracted cheek because she was too busy laughing at something Julian had just said. The incident that really set the tone happened about 2 weeks before her birthday. I'd picked up some nice ribeye steaks on the way home, a splurge just because I wanted to do something nice on a Tuesday. I cooked them perfectly. Julian, naturally, stayed for dinner. He didn't ask. He just grabbed a plate. As we were eating, Julian started on one of his lectures. "I just don't know how you do it, man," he said, gesturing with a fork full of my steak. "Trading hours of your life for a paycheck. It's so transactional. Like, don't you feel your soul atrophying a little bit every time you clock in?" I cut a piece of meat, keeping my eyes on the plate. "It pays for the apartment you're sitting in, Julian, and the steak you're eating." Elena dropped her fork. The clatter was loud in the sudden silence. "OP, don't be rude," she snapped. I looked up, genuinely baffled. I'm being rude? He just insulted my entire life choices while eating my food. "He's not insulting you," Elena sighed, giving me that look, the one that said I was being difficult and embarrassing. "It's a philosophical observation, bro," Julian added, leaning back and taking a sip of the wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. "I'm just saying I prioritize freedom over comfort. I couldn't be caged like that." "Right," I said, putting my fork down. "It's easy to prioritize freedom when someone else is subsidizing your comfort." Elena stood up. "Okay, that's enough. If you're going to be in a bad mood because you had a hard day, just go to the bedroom. Don't take it out on Julian. He's had a really rough week with his gallery submission getting rejected." I looked at her, really looked at her. She was defending the guy insulting me in my own home. But I was tired. I was so damn tired. I didn't have the energy for a fight that I knew would end with me apologizing for being unsupportive. "Fine," I said. I stood up, left my half-eaten steak, and walked to the bedroom. I could hear them laughing about 10 minutes later. I should have ended it then, I know that now, but I was deep in the sunk cost fallacy. We had been together for 3 years. I loved her. I kept thinking that once she got her break, once she matured a little, she'd see how much I did for us. I thought I just had to wait it out. So, instead of breaking up with her, I decided to go big for her birthday. Elena was obsessed with a band called the Midnight Echo. They were this indie synth pop group that had recently blown up. They were playing one night only in our city at the biggest arena. Tickets were impossible to get. Scalpers were asking for $1,000 a pop. I called in a favor with a vendor at work who had a connection at the arena. I spent a week coordinating it. I dropped $1,200 total for 2 VIP floor seats, front section, early entry, the works. It was an insane amount of money, but I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to show her that I listened, that I cared about the things she loved, even if I was just a corporate drone. I remember the day I got the digital confirmation. I felt a surge of genuine excitement. This was going to be the thing that turned the corner. Just me and her, a night she'd never forget. Julian wouldn't be there. It would be our memory. I printed out a mock ticket, since the real ones were QR codes on my phone, and put it in a card. I waited until 3 days before the concert, 3 days before her birthday, to give it to her. I came home early. Julian wasn't there for once. Elena was painting in the living room. "Hey," I said, sliding the envelope across the coffee table. "Happy early birthday." She opened it. Her eyes went wide. She gasped, covering her mouth with paint-stained hands. "No way," she whispered. "The Echo? Floor seats? These are sold out everywhere." "I pulled some strings," I said, smiling. I felt that warmth in my chest, that validation I had been starving for. I know how much she loved them. I wanted us to have a special night. She jumped up and hugged me. It was the first genuine affection I'd felt in months. "This is amazing! Oh my God, thank you!" For about an hour, everything was perfect. She was texting her friends, posting a picture of the mock ticket on Instagram, capturing just the band name, careful not to show the barcode. I made dinner, we ate together. It felt like it used to. Then, around 9 p.m., her phone buzzed. It was a text. She looked at the screen and her smile faltered. She typed a quick reply, then bit her lip. She looked at me, then back at the phone. "What's up?" I asked, loading the dishwasher. "It's Julian," she said softly. My stomach tightened. "Okay, what does he want?" "He saw my post," she said. She didn't look at me. She was staring at her hands. "He's really upset." "Why?" "He loves this band too, you know that. We used to listen to their first EP in his dorm room all the time. It's kind of our thing." I paused, a plate in my hand. "Okay, well, that sucks for him, but I couldn't get 3 tickets. I barely got 2. "I know," she said. She looked up at me, and her eyes were wet. "But he's been in such a dark place since the gallery rejection. He's been talking about, how nothing matters. I'm really worried about him." "Elena," I said, trying to keep my voice even, "I bought these tickets for your birthday, for us." "I know," she repeated. She stood up and walked into the kitchen, leaning against the counter opposite me. She crossed her arms. "Think about it. You like them, but you don't feel the lyrics like we do. You're just going to stand there and nod your head. For Julian, this could be life-saving, literally." I set the plate down slowly. The air in the kitchen suddenly felt very thin. I knew where this was going, but my brain refused to accept it. It was too absurd, too cruel. "What are you saying, Elena?" She took a deep breath, like she was the one having to make a hard sacrifice. "I think I should take Julian. He deserves it more right now." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and toxic. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to laugh and say she was kidding, that she wouldn't actually kick her boyfriend out of his own gift to take another man on a date. But she didn't laugh. She just looked at me with that defiant, chin-tilted posture she always used when she knew she was wrong but wanted to bully her way into being right. "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I spent $1,200. I called in favors. I planned a romantic night for us, and you want to take Julian?" "It's not a date, OP. God, you're so insecure," she groaned, rolling her eyes. "It's about the music. Julian and I have a spiritual connection to this band. You like them because they're catchy. It's different. Julian needs this. He's feeling really low." "And what about me?" I asked. "Do I matter in this equation, or am I just the wild?" Her face hardened.
You bought them for my birthday, didn't you? So technically, they're my property. Shouldn't I get to choose who I spend my birthday experience with? If you really loved me, you'd want me to have the best experience possible. And the best experience is being there with someone who truly gets it. That was the moment. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was a quiet click, like a breaker tripping in a fuse box. The love, the patience, the hope that she would eventually grow up, it all just shut off. I looked at this woman standing in the kitchen I paid for, wearing clothes I bought, planning to take another man to a concert I funded, and I realized I didn't know her. Or rather, I finally saw her. She wasn't a struggling artist. She was a narcissist who viewed me as a utility. I took a slow breath. I didn't yell. I didn't flip the table. "Okay," I said. She blinked, surprised by the sudden surrender. "Okay, if that's what you want," I said, turning back to the dishwasher. "Take Julian. If he needs it that bad, take him." She let out a relieved sigh and rushed over to hug me from behind. I flinched, but she didn't notice. "Thank you! Oh my God, you are the best! Seriously, you're so understanding! Most guys would be such jerks about this." "Yeah," I said, staring at the soapy water. "I'm not most guys." The next 3 days were a masterclass in logistics. I didn't sleep. I operated on caffeine and pure, cold adrenaline. While Alina was at her coffee shop shift the next morning, I took a sick day. I went to a high-end apartment complex 3 miles away, closer to my office, further from the arts district she loved. I had good credit and cash on hand. I signed a lease for a 1-bedroom that started immediately. It cost more than our current place, but I didn't care. Then I called our current landlord. "Hey, Mr. Henderson, it's OP. Look, I know our lease is month to month right now, but I need to terminate effective immediately." "You need to give 30 days, son," Henderson grumbled. "I know. I'll pay the full next month's rent as a penalty, but I'm surrendering the keys on Sunday. The place will be empty." That was the trap. I paid through the end of the month, but I was formally surrendering possession. When she came back, she wouldn't just be dumped, she would be trespassing in a vacant unit. Thursday and Friday night, I started cleaning. "I'm going to do a huge donation run," I told Elena as I packed my winter clothes, my books, and my electronics into boxes. "Make space for your new year, right?" She was so self-absorbed she barely looked up from her phone. She was too busy texting Julian about outfit coordination for the concert. "That's great, babe. Can you move those boxes out of the hallway? They're blocking the fun." "Sure," I said. "I'll move them out tomorrow night while you're at the show. You'll come home to a clean house." "You're sweet," she said absent-mindedly. I moved the small, expensive stuff out first. My gaming PC, my grandfather's watch, the folder with our passports and birth certificates. I put them in the trunk of my car and drove them to the new place on my lunch breaks. By Saturday afternoon, concert day, I had stripped my life down to the furniture. Julian arrived at 6 p.m. He looked ridiculous. He was wearing skinny jeans, a fedora, I wish I was joking, and a vintage vest. He strolled into my apartment like he owned it. "Ready to rock and roll," he shouted. Then he saw me sitting on the couch. He smirked. "Hey, OP, thanks for the ticket, man. You're a real one. Seriously, it's big of you to step aside. Not everyone can handle the intensity of a live show like this." "Enjoy it, Julian," I said, not standing up. "Make sure it's worth it." Elena came out of the bedroom. She looked stunning. She was wearing a dress I had bought her for our anniversary last year. She had done her hair in that intricate way that took 2 hours, something she hadn't done for a date with me in 6 months. "Do I look okay?" she asked, twirling. She was asking Julian, not me. "Perfection," Julian said, offering her his arm. "We gotta go, babe. We have access to the VIP lounge, remember? I want to hit the free buffet before the opener." "Right." She grabbed her purse. She paused at the door, looking back at me. For a second, just a split second, the door clicked shut. I listened to their footsteps fade down the hallway. I waited until I heard the building's front door slam. Then I walked to the window and watched them get into Julian's rusted-out Honda Civic. As soon as they turned the corner, I pulled my phone out and dialed. "You guys can come up." The moving crew was parked around the block. 3 guys. I had paid extra for the rush hour service.
Everything? The foreman asked, looking around the living room. Everything that isn't hers, I said. It was brutal and efficient. The couch? Mine. The 65-inch 4K TV? Mine. The dining table? Mine. The expensive espresso machine she used every morning? Mine. The bed frame and the mattress? Mine. I left her stuff, her easel, her boxes of paints, her clothes, a beanbag chair she had brought from her parents' house, a stack of old magazines. Within 2 hours, the apartment echoed. It smelled of dust and vacancy. I did a final sweep. I checked the bathroom, took the towels, the shower curtain, the toilet paper. I checked the kitchen, took the plates, the silverware, the pots, the food from the fridge. I even took the router. The apartment wasn't just empty, it was dead. It was a box of drywall with a pile of her clothes in the middle of the bedroom floor and an easel in the living room. I took the house key off my ring. I found a piece of paper, the back of an old utility bill, and wrote the note. I didn't want to write a novel. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of an explanation. Elena, he can have the tickets, and he can have you too. The lease is terminated. The landlord comes Monday morning. You have 24 hours to get your things out. Good luck. I left the note and the key on the kitchen counter. It was the only surface left in the entire apartment. I walked out, locked the door, and dropped my set of keys in the landlord's drop box downstairs. I got into my car, drove to my new apartment, ordered a pizza, and blocked her number. Then I blocked Julian. Then I blocked her sister. Then I blocked her parents. I sat on my couch in my new, silent living room, ate a slice of pepperoni pizza, and waited for the inevitable explosion. It didn't happen that night. I knew the concert ended at 11 p.m. They would probably go out for drinks after, celebrating their spiritual connection. She wouldn't be home until 1 or 2 a.m. I slept like a baby. I found out what happened 2 days later from Mike. Mike was a neighbor in our old building, a good guy, a gym buddy. I hadn't told him I was leaving because I didn't want to risk leaks, but I knew he'd be my eyes and ears. We met for coffee near my office. Mike looked traumatized. "Dude," Mike said, leaning over the table, "what the hell happened? I thought you were dead." "I moved," I said, sipping my black coffee. "You didn't just move, man. You vanished. It was like a rapture." Mike shook his head. "So, Saturday night, 2:30 a.m., I'm asleep. Suddenly, I hear screaming, like murder-level screaming, from your unit. Elena." "Yeah?" "She was banging on the walls. I went out into the hall. She's standing there in this fancy dress, mascara running down her face, holding a piece of paper. The door is wide open. I look inside, and it's empty, just empty." I nodded. "Go on." "She saw me and freaked out. She was screaming that you'd been robbed. She wanted to call the cops. I had to tell her, 'Elena, robbers don't take the shower curtain and leave the paintbrushes.' Then she showed me the note." Mike paused, looking at me with a mix of fear and respect. "That was cold, OP. Ice cold." "I gave away my birthday present to her boyfriend," I said. "I just gave her the worst of the package." "Well, it gets worse," Mike said, "or better, depending on how you look at it. She tried to stay there, but you cut the power, right?" "I transferred the service to my new address on Sunday morning," I confirmed. "So she's sitting in the dark. Sunday morning, Henderson shows up for the inspection. He goes ballistic, tells her she's trespassing and has to get out immediately or he's calling the sheriff. She's crying, trying to call you, getting the number not in service message." "Where did she go?" I asked. I felt a twinge of guilt, but then I remembered Julian's smirk. "Thanks for the ticket, man." The guilt evaporated. "Julian," Mike said, "he helped her carry her boxes down to his car." "Dude, Julian drives a Civic Coupe. They had to strap the easel to the roof. She was crying the whole time, and Julian, he looked pissed. He kept asking where the TV was." I laughed. It was a dry, short sound. "He wanted the TV. He thought you left the furniture. When he realized he was just getting the girl and her baggage without the subsidy, he looked like he wanted to drive off and leave her there." "They deserve each other," I said. "Yeah, about that," Mike said, grimacing. "She came by my place yesterday looking for you. She looks rough, OP. She asked if I knew where you went. I said no, but she's not going to stop. She thinks this is just a fight. She doesn't realize it's a permanent eviction. She'll figure it out, I said. But Mike was right. She didn't stop. It took her 3 months to find me. The first thing you notice when you cut off a dead limb is the phantom pain. You reach for it and it's not there. But after the pain fades, you notice something else, the energy returning to the rest of your body. For the first month, I waited for the sadness to hit. I waited to miss her. I waited to miss the way she smelled or the way she would curl up next to me on Sunday mornings. But the sadness never came. Instead, the math came. I remember sitting down with my banking app about 4 weeks after the move. I looked at my checking account and thought there was a glitch. The number was too high. Then I realized I hadn't paid for Elena's groceries, $600 per month. I hadn't paid for her art supplies, $200 per month. I hadn't paid the extra utilities for her long showers. I hadn't paid for the takeout she ordered when she didn't feel like cooking. And I certainly hadn't paid for the craft beer Julian drank by the six-pack. I was saving nearly $2,000 a month just by being single. I used that money. I bought a new wardrobe, clothes that actually fit, not the clearance rack stuff I used to settle for because we were on a budget. I joined a high-end gym, the kind with a sauna and cold plunge. I started staying late at work, not because I had to, but because I didn't dread going home anymore. There was no Julian on my couch. There was no passive-aggressive commentary on my soul-sucking job. My boss noticed. "You seem lighter, OP," she said during a performance review. "More focused." She gave me a 10% raise. Meanwhile, through the grapevine, I heard the opposite was happening to Elena. Sarah, a mutual friend, who had initially called me an a-hole for abandoning Elena, reached out about 6 weeks in. She asked to meet for drinks. I almost said no, but curiosity is a hell of a drug. Sarah looked tired. She ordered a double vodka tonic. "You were right," she said, not making eye contact. "About what?" "Julian. The whole situation." Sarah sighed. "It's a disaster over there, OP. You have to know. She's miserable." I took a sip of my beer. She got what she wanted. She's with the guy who understands her soul. "She's with the guy who doesn't have a job," Sarah corrected. "Julian lives in a warehouse loft with 3 other guys. It's got no AC and 1 bathroom. Elena moved in there because she couldn't qualify for an apartment on her coffee shop wages. She's sleeping on a mattress on the floor." "That sounds very bohemian," I said dryly. "It sounds like hell," Sarah said. "Julian won't get a job. He says his creative process is too fragile right now. So Elena is picking up double shifts to feed him. She's exhausted. She looks 10 years older." "Why doesn't she leave?" "She's too proud," Sarah said, "and she's ashamed. She told me the other day that Julian borrowed her credit card to buy vintage vinyl records while she was at work. He maxed it out. She cried for hours." Sarah looked at me, her eyes pleading. "She misses you, OP. She talks about you all the time. She knows she messed up. If you just unblocked her." "Sarah," I cut her off, "if you're here to broker a peace treaty, I'm leaving." "I'm just saying she's suffering." "She chose him," I said, putting cash on the table for my drink. "I told her he deserved the tickets more. I told her he deserved the joy. Well, now he has it and she has him. That's not my problem anymore." I walked out. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt relieved. It was confirmation that I hadn't lost a partner. I had escaped a parasite. She ambushed me 3 months to the day after the concert. I worked in a glass-walled building downtown. There was a coffee cart in the lobby where I usually grabbed a mid-morning espresso. I was standing there checking emails on my phone, wearing a new charcoal suit I had tailored. I felt good, strong. "OP." The voice was familiar, but thin, shaky. I turned around. It took me a second to process the image. Elena was standing there, but she looked like a faded photocopy of the girl I used to know. Her hair, usually vibrant, was pulled back in a messy, frizzy bun. She was wearing old jeans and a sweater I recognized, one that had seen better days. She looked tired, bone-deep tired. She was holding a cardboard cup of coffee, her hands trembling slightly. "Elena?" I said. My voice was calm, professional, like I was greeting a vendor I hadn't seen in a while. "What are you doing here?" "I needed to see you," she said. Her eyes scanned me, taking in the suit, the watch, the general air of health. I saw a flicker of pain cross her face. "You look really good." "I am good," I said. "I'm busy, though. I have a meeting in 10 minutes. "Just 5 minutes, please." She took a step closer. "I know I'm blocked. I know you're mad, but we can't end 3 years like this without even a conversation." "We had a conversation," I said. "In the kitchen, you remember? You told me Julian deserved it more." "I was confused," she blurted out, her voice rising. A few people in the lobby glanced over. She lowered her voice, desperate. "Julian, he manipulated me, OP. He got in my head. He made me feel like I owed him. I didn't realize what I was doing until it was too late." "You realized it when the rent check bounced," I said. She flinched. "It's not about the money. It's about us. Julian he's a monster. He cheated on me, OP, with some 19-year-old barista. He told me I was bringing down his vibe because I was asking him to help with bills. He kicked me out. I'm staying on Sarah's couch." She looked at me with tears welling up in her eyes. The same big, watery eyes that used to make me fold, make me apologize, make me open my wallet. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I made a mistake, a huge mistake. But I love you. I've always loved you. Julian was just a fantasy. You're real. Can we get coffee? Can we start over?" I looked at her. I really looked at her. I thought about the night I bought the tickets. I thought about the 3 years of carrying her. I thought about the disrespect. "No," I said. The word hung there, simple and absolute. "No?" she choked out. "Just like that? You're gonna throw away 3 years because of one mistake?" "It wasn't a mistake, Elena. It was a choice," I said. I stepped closer, not to intimidate her, so I didn't have to shout. "You didn't choose Julian because you were confused. You chose him because you didn't respect me. You thought I would always be there. You thought I was a safe backup plan that you could put on a shelf while you went out and played with the fun guy. That's not true." "It is true. You told me I didn't get the music. You told me he deserved it more." I checked my watch. "Well, you were right about one thing. He did deserve you. You guys were perfect for each other. You both wanted a life you weren't willing to work for." "I have nothing, OP," she sobbed, the tears spilling over now. "I have no apartment. I have no money. I miss my life. I miss you." "You miss the apartment," I corrected her. "You miss the security. You miss the guy who fixed everything." I adjusted my cuff. "I'm not that guy anymore. That guy died the moment you walked out." I hadn't heard a whisper about Elena or Julian since the lobby incident. I assumed they had faded into the background noise of the city. Then I got a LinkedIn notification. "Elena, last name, has viewed your profile." Curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on her profile. It was bleak. She had listed herself as open to work. Her job history showed she had left the boutique coffee shop 3 months ago. Under current position, it just said freelance artist. But the real kicker came from Mike, my old neighbor/spy. I ran into Mike at the grocery store on Sunday. He looked excited to see me. "Dude," he said, practically vibrating, "you will never guess who got arrested." "Julian?" I guessed. "Julian," Mike confirmed. "It was all over the neighborhood Facebook group. Apparently, after he kicked Elena out, he moved in another girl. Same pattern. He was borrowing money, using her car. Well, this girl has a brother who's a cop." Mike laughed. "Julian tried to steal her laptop to pawn it for studio time. The brother caught him. He's looking at theft charges and possession. But here's the best part. Elena was called as a witness. Why? Because he still had some of her stuff. He refused to give back the easel, the paints. The cops raided his loft and found a stash of stolen goods. Elena had to go down to the precinct to identify her old canvases." Mike showed me a picture someone had snapped outside the courthouse. It was blurry, but I saw her. She was standing alone on the